Hello. In this lesson we're going to be looking at calculating the circumference of a circle. I'm going to start with our times table starter. So have a go at these, pause the video while you're working on them. Welcome back. So let's mark our own. So last lesson we talked about this number pi. We divided the circumference of some circles we found by the diameter of those circles, and we should have got an answer of about 3 all the time. So if you measured it really accurately, you'd have actually got a number a bit like this. So we've got, I don't know how many decimal places we've got here, and we haven't even finished. This number goes on forever and ever and ever, and nobody's found the end of it yet. Right, so it looks a little off-putting. So what we do is we use a value of pi as 3.14. This is when we haven't got a calculator to hand. So we're doing non-calculator multiplication today. And we're going to use this equation at the top, which I'd like you to copy into your book or paper, whatever you're writing on. The circumference is equal to the diameter multiplied by pi. Okay, we've got a diagram there showing the diameter is a line going straight across from one edge to the other, going through the center of the circle. Our circumference is the distance right around the circle. Another thing we're going to need to know today is about something called the radius. So the radius is half of a diameter. So if you see the diameter goes all the way, from one side to the other, going through the middle, a radius just goes from the middle just to one side. So it's half the size of the diameter. So you might need to know that later in the lesson, when you will need to know it. Okay, so let's have a look at a couple of examples. So here's our circle, got a diameter of 5 centimeters. What is the circumference? So remembering that C is equal to pi times d. So that is circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. And we're using our value of 3.14 multiplied by 5. So if we think back to the start of year 7 when we did multiplying decimals, we remember that we used the box method or grid method, and we at first ignore the decimal point. So we would look at that number and see it as 314. And then we partition that number into 300 and 10 and 4. We're going to multiply that by 5. So we've got 3 times 5 is 15, adding our 2 zeros. 5 times 1 is 5, adding 1 0. Then 5 times 4 is 20. And then we're going to add these numbers up. Be very careful about our columns. So we've got a value there of 1,570. But we need to think now that we had 2 numbers after the decimal point in the question. So we need to have two numbers after the decimal point in the answer. So our circumference is 15.7 centimeters. So let's have a look at another example. Here we've got a diameter of 8 centimeters. So again, we're going to remember we're using circumference is equal to pi times diameter. C is equal to pi times d. Remember, we're going to use 3.14 for pi, and we're going to multiply that by 8. So the same thing, we're going to partition our 300 and 10 and 4. We're going to multiply everything by 8. So 8 times 3 is 24. Add 2 zeros. 8 times 1 is 8. Add a 0. Then 8 times 4 is 32. Again, adding these up using our columns. Okay, so we've got a value here of 2,512. Again, let's think about these two numbers after the decimal point in the question. So we've got two numbers after the decimal point in the answer. So the circumference is 25.12 centimeters. Let's have a look at our last example now. So here you've been given the radius, a radius of 12 centimeters. So if you think back to what we talked about at the start of the lesson, that's half of the diameter. So the diameter must be 2 times 12, which is 24 centimeters. So we're going to use again, C is equal to pi times d. Circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. So we're using 3.14 again, times 24. Okay, so we're going to treat this in the same way. We're going to partition our 314 into 300, 10, and 4. And we're going to multiply that by 24. We're going to partition into 20 and 4. So a little bit of extra work on this one. So firstly, we're going to say 2 times 3 is 6. And we've got now 3 zeros to add. 2 times 1 is 2. We've got 2 zeros to add. Then 2 times 4 is 8 with 1 zero to add. And then we're going to do this bottom line now. 4 times 3 is 12 with 2 zeros to add. 4 times 1 is 4 with 1 zero to add. And 4 times 4 is 16, no zeros. So, got a few more numbers here, so we need to be especially careful of our columns. So we've got 6,000, 1,200, 200, 40, 80, and 16. So we've got to be very, very careful now with this because we're adding 6 numbers together in columns you can make mistakes. So if we look at my first column, I've got 6. My second column, I've got 4 plus 8 is 12, plus 1 is 13, plus 3, and I'm going to carry this 1. I'm going to say 2 plus 2 is 4, plus that 1 at the top is 5. And then my last column, my thousands column, is 6 plus 1, which is 7. So again, we're going to look at the fact that we've got 2 numbers after the decimal point in the question. We've got to have 2 numbers after the decimal point in the answer. So our circumference is going to be 75.36 centimeters. Okay, so let's do our main task now. Okay, so the first lot, we've been given the diameter. The second lot, we've been given the radius. So just make sure you remember that the radius is half the diameter. Okay, these do get a bit tougher as we go along. So just take your time and do your best. So while you're working on that, pause the video. Welcome back. So here are our answers. Really, really tough, some of those. So if you manage to get question 2, E, F, G, and H done, and got the right answer, you've done really, really, really well. That was very tough. Okay, so mark in your own. Okay, so I will speak to you again soon. Thank you, Year 7.